let's add a couple of constraints. Right now, if I went over here, I could get away with both a username that is null. I could get away with a username that's empty. This will end up working for me. It's not really what I'm looking for here. So in order to avoid that, what we're going to do is just add a couple of constraints here. We can do the same thing on the departments table, but here I'm going to put in not null. That'll end up taking care of part of this issue here where I'll get an error. The other thing that I probably want to do here is also avoid someone putting in, so let's go over here, let's put Mo back here. But let's also deal with someone giving us an empty string. So one way we could do that is actually to put a check on here. And what we could end up doing here is we could specify, hey, look, the character length. This is something that we could end up doing with Postgres. The character length of name has got to be greater than 0. So this puts another constraint here, and we could see that it violates that constraint. So here we're just sort of locking down our data. Let's just do the same thing. Since these are the same for these two tables, I'm going to do the same thing here. You can check whether or not that ends up working. So that's fine. That gives us a little, it tells us that no one's going to be able to, put in null values or empty strings for these name properties. But what if, and again, we might not want to, but in this case, do we want to be able to allow Lucy to get added twice to engineering? Right now, we're able to do that. Well, how could we prevent that? Well, one of the ways that we could end up handling that is by actually adding, and there's a number of ways to do this, this is just one of the ways, is that we could actually create what's called a unique index. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create the unique index on user departments, and what that index is going to be made of, and again, since we ended up using the quotes before, we've got to use them again. The order here is not critical, but what we're going to do here, what this is going to prevent is, hey, look, if you are already have that department, we're not going to let you end up adding it twice. And so we'll see that that ends up violating that constraint. And again, this all depends on what your use case is. If it turned out that, people could go back and forth from departments and that there was a time frame that was associated with it, then we might end up allowing it. We might put some other type of constraint on it. But this is pretty common that, hey, look, if you already have that relationship set up, you don't want to end up creating it again, and that will end up solving this problem. So here we were able to go and satisfy this condition, again with some additional constraints on things as well.